So we have talked already a little bit about the work of Jesus during that last week we call Holy Week, and so I wanted to kind of walk with you through the biblical account of that last week and the significance of what Jesus was doing. It wasn't accidental; it was a very intentional and strategic work that Jesus was doing this last week of. As we move into from Palm Sunday toward Good Friday and then the resurrection. And so I thought I wanted to kind of unpack that with you just for a moment. I want you to, again, I want you to be reminded when you ask the question, who is Jesus? On the surface, that seems like a very simple question and one that's very easy to answer. Of course, the truth of the matter is we all carry with us this idea, these images of who Jesus is. And much of that, to be honest, is shaped by our upbringing and the culture and things maybe other people have told us without us taking seriously and looking at the only real canvas we have of Jesus' portraits, and that would be the Gospels themselves. And so I again would remind you that Jesus, when people say, well, all we need to do is go back to Jesus, it's not as easy as that. Because honestly, a lot of people are imposing their ideology, their viewpoint of Jesus. And they want, and really in many ways, when the dust settles, you realize, well, that Jesus looks a lot like them. We don't have that luxury, any of us as Christians. We have to learn to really try and look at Jesus through the lens of the Gospels themselves. And when you look at his last week, it's really helpful to look carefully at who is Jesus and what is he doing and what kinds of activities will he give himself to that last week before the crucifixion. And so, of course, on Sunday you have Palm Sunday, and in this Sunday we will certainly celebrate that. And yet, when you think about it and really look at it carefully, there's a lot going on when Jesus rides into Jerusalem. There is a lot going on as all of Jerusalem is preparing for Passover, which is a time of liberation. I know we've talked about it already. I won't go into details here. I'll just simply say that on that day that Jesus went riding into Jerusalem on a donkey, he was both threatening the Roman system, but he also was challenging his own tradition, his faith tradition's understanding of Messiah. And, what kind of Messiah would he be? Jesus was already being referred to as Messiah by many of his followers. And so Palm Sunday, we see Jesus riding into Jerusalem. And in many ways, it's a declaration that he will not attempt to overthrow Rome with power or violence or force. He's not going to do it that way. He's going to do it another way. He's going to do it through humility, laying down his life, through the act of love. And so you see all of that unfolding in that first day. Now, on Monday, you see Jesus entering into the temple courtyard, and it's there that he actually turns over a table. And I know a lot's been written and much has been said about this particular incident in Jesus' life. And I don't know, all the way from the idea that somehow, well, you're not supposed to sell things in the vestibule of a church because Jesus gets angry with that, the exchange of money. But there was so much more going on than that. That is such a surface understanding of this passage. Jesus actually, in the cleansing of the temple, of turning over the table, it's filled with symbolic meaning. Jesus was preaching and teaching about the compassion of God, and he told parables, honestly, to demonstrate God's compassion, especially for people who were marginalized and outcast, the poor and the downtrodden. And then there is his command, be ye compassionate as God is compassionate. That command, by the way, to be compassionate as God is compassionate, would have been controversial in itself especially for Jewish religious authorities. Their message had been and was always, be ye holy as God is holy. And they had built an entire system on that understanding. It was called the purity system. It included laws and regulations, which was in many ways not only regulated but overseen by the religious authorities of the day. It involved ritual and sacrifice. It involved the giving of offering. And when Jesus comes in and overturns the table, yes, he is angry at seeing those who are marginalized and poor taking advantage of in a system that was broken already. So Jesus, he overturns the entire system, including the idea of sacrifice. The religious authorities are threatened by it, and they are angry by it, and he has offended the wrong people. This is on Monday. Sunday, he rides in to Jerusalem. On Monday, turning over the table. On Tuesday, you have the question of authority being raised with Jesus on a Tuesday. It's found in Mark 11, one of the incidents of what happened on that day, in verse 27. And again, they came to Jerusalem, and as he was walking in the temple, which, by the way, after he had turned over the table, imagine the kind of welcome he would have received. He was walking in the temple. The chief priest and the scribes and the elders came to him and said, by what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you the authority to do them? And Jesus said, well, I will ask you one question, answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it of human origin? Answer me, he said. And of course, in that passage, they argued with one another and were among themselves, and they were saying, well, now if we say from heaven, he will say, why then did you not believe him? But shall we say of human origin? They were afraid of the crowd, for all the crowd regarded John as truly a prophet. So they answered Jesus, we do not know. And Jesus said to them, well, neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. The implication is that the authority that Jesus had in his life to say the things that he did and do the things that he did was from heaven, from God. Was at baptism, the dove that descended and the voice from heaven, this is my beloved Son. The authority of Jesus was there, it resided in that. And so you find that even in the parables, Jesus he is offending and taking on and challenging the religious authorities of his time. On Wednesday, in Mark 14 is a good example of what would have happened midweek, beginning in chapter 14. 2 days before the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread, the chief priests and scribes were looking for a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. For they said, not during the festival, or there might be a riot among the people. Look, the reason that's so important is that it was Passover, and Passover celebrated liberation, and there was already a lot of enthusiasm and fervor in the air for an uprising. The situation was ripe for this kind of thing to happen. They were afraid to arrest him because they were afraid that it would kind of strike a match to the kindling of that, and it would get out of hand. So they don't. The other things that on Wednesday of that last week before the crucifixion, Jesus was anointed with perfume at Bethany by Mary. Beautiful picture of humility and love and service, and of course Judas is opposed to her gift to Jesus, and then later Judas himself betrays Jesus. On Thursday, the meal, it's the Last Supper, and that's what comes into focus, and there they are, all of them together for the last time. They are all there, Peter and Judas and the rest of them. And Jesus was telling them of being betrayed and denied, and they were all there, basically, probably quietly saying, "Never is this going to happen." Um, have you, the idea is that none of us at the table would ever forsake you or deny you or reject you or betray you in any way. This is a time of reflection. The closer you get to the cross, the harder it is to stand with him, knowing where he is going. And so you end up having this going on Thursday. It's kind of the central focus. Now, on Friday, of course, Good Friday, we know that story well, and I won't go into detail there because we're going to do that together in a Good Friday service, and so I'll wait until then. I know it's an overview, and many of you already know the story so very well, but maybe it's helpful to kind of get in your own mind's eye, in your imagination, an understanding of Jesus and what he was up to, and how, I don't know if you approach the cross and the crucifixion of Jesus as being something of, well, it either just happened or it was so preordained that there were no choices involved. That's not what the biblical story says. Jesus in Gethsemane in prayer, no, this was an act of surrender. It was an intentional move. It was a strategic kind of development of Jesus in going to Jerusalem when he did and doing the very things that he did. And it leaves room for all of us again to look at Jesus and to ask ourselves about our own life as we claim to know and love and try to follow Jesus. Is, which Jesus am I talking about? And do I often impose my understanding of Jesus onto him, so much so that it obscures the portraits that we have available to us in the Gospels themselves? Well, if nothing else, I hope that has helped. And maybe as you view this, if you're viewing this and you're not, maybe you didn't make it to the Wednesday evening service, this is an addition to the teaching of Wednesday evening, and I hope this will be helpful. Thanks.